Silva.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas Walker.
Here.
Mayor Solomon.
Here.
Councilmember Sanders, excused.
Pledge allegiance by Mr. Jackson, invocation by me.
Please join me. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. The Lord is my shepherd, we shall not want. He maketh us to lie down in the green pastures. He leads us beside the still waters. He restores our soul. He leads us in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though we walk through the valley of the shadow of the death, we will fear no evil, for thou art with us. They rod, they staff, they comfort us. Thou preparest a table before us in the presence of thy enemy. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our lives, and we will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Lord, I want to thank you for allowing us to get together today. I ask these things and all others in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
We have the city attorney's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On a motion by Councilmember Jackson, second by Councilmember Villegas Walker, the City Council met in closed session at 11:32 a.m. Councilmember Sanders was absent. All other council members were present, with Councilmember Silva arriving at 11:38 a.m. There were 4 anticipated litigation items on the agenda. Reports were given to council on all 4 items with no action to report, but direction was given to staff for each item. Council met with its labor relations negotiators, Ruben Duran, City Manager, and Terry Brownlee, HR Director, concerning labor matters. There is no action to report, but direction was given to staff. Closed session concluded at 12:55 p.m., and that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We have a few presentations to make. Is there someone here from the veterans?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you could just come right down here in front. Just, yeah. Veterans Appreciation Month, May 2013. Whereas the city of El Centro appreciates and admires the thousands of men and women who have served in the armed forces to protect, preserve their country and the freedom enjoyed by all Americans. And whereas in war, international conflict, and peacekeeping mission, men and women have been wounded, taken as prisoners, and died in the line of duty. And whereas the community recognizes and appreciates the hardship and sacrifices made by the families of our veterans who during their time of service and when they return home. And whereas during Veterans Appreciation Month, state, local agencies increase employment awareness about the benefits of hiring veterans. And now, therefore, I, Benjamin James Solomon III, Mayor of the City of El Centro, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2013 as Veteran Appreciation Month in the City of El Centro.
Okay, next up, the National Public Works Week. Do we have a representative here, or perhaps Mr. Hagan? That would be an appropriate person to stand so that we can recognize all the great work that you and similarly situated experts do. Whereas the public works services provided to the El Centro community is an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewers, streets, and public buildings, and whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform, and whereas this year's theme is, quote, because of public works, as we celebrate the hard work and dedication of many public works personnel throughout the city of El Centro, and now, therefore, I, on behalf of Benjamin J. Solomon III, Mayor of the City of El Centro, State of California, do hereby proclaim May 19 through 25, so you have some time to get ready, May 19 through 25, 2013, as National Public Works Week in the City of El Centro.
Thank you.
I think that for both of these presentations, if the council could have just 1 minute before we launch on to the next one. Speaking first with regard to the veterans group, I think that there's so much appreciation that we want to communicate to the veterans that have been willing to put their lives in jeopardy for so many ideals for our country and for other countries throughout the world. I think that there is no amount of gratitude that we can express to our veterans for their service to us. Closer to home, much closer to home with regard to our public works personnel. They're responsible for an awful lot that make our lives easy. And I think that every day that when we get up and we can turn on that water faucet and have clean water come out of that faucet, and we know that there's so many areas of this world that that's a luxury that they don't have. And I would just hope that we would find that time to reflect on all the work that Mr. Hagan and the Public Works staff do every day to make our lives easy here, and to be grateful for the work that you do. So Terry, if you could please extend our thanks and congratulations to your Public Works staff, please.
Thank you, I will.
Thank you. Yes, I want to echo the comments by Councilmember Walker. I think as it relates to veterans, I want to thank the mayor for both proclamations. I think they're very timely, and many times, we understand things, but it's not until it hits home that we truly become sensitive and understanding of the sacrifices that are made by people. And I'm not a veteran, did not join any of the armed forces, but my daughter did. My daughter's an Army veteran, and so understanding what she went through, she served one tour in Iraq, and understanding what she went through, the sacrifices that she had to make, again, this brings it home, and my complete appreciation for all veterans and what you do for our country. And sometimes we take that for granted, and we should not. Speaking of taking things for granted, I think when it comes to public works, no one thinks about public works until things go wrong, and the water doesn't turn on, or the toilet doesn't flush, or something is going on. That's when we get the call. So it's nice to give some positive recognition, Terry. Same thing on my behalf. Please extend our appreciation to all the employees in Public Works.
Yeah, I would also like to echo the same sentiment to our veterans. I think they're certainly a core of our community here in Imperial Valley. We have a lot of military families here, and anytime we can celebrate our veterans, I think that's certainly an honor that's well deserved. Terry and I have been working together on a couple of projects lately, and I certainly have seen how how quickly and diligently your department has worked on a couple of issues. And recently I had an individual that using social media put something on my Facebook about, does anybody care? And I brought it to Terry's attention yesterday morning, and by the end of the day that issue had been resolved. And I think the answer to that question is yes, we have employees that do care, and I certainly commend you and your staff for your prompt taking care of that very fast, and also the other issues with the crosswalk. And a lot of issues that happen within the city, the safety of our children, whether it be stop signs or crosswalks or things like that, they're all things that come under Public Works. And so he's got a lot of responsibility, and you handle it very well, and I appreciate all your work that you do and your department does. Thank you.
And let me say something, since the other three did. No, in all fairness, in all honesty here, the thing that surprises me the most is that we go through wars. People lose lives, people come home limb, and those that do come home intact are really never intact after they've been in war for a while. And yet when they take off the uniform, my question is always, how are they received? How are they received by the people that they have been fighting for? I've learned something about life, and that is all hands are on deck. And right now we need every single person helping out to make America the place that we want it to be, and to continue to do that. There's no saying that I like. That Kennedy said, ask not what you can do for your country, but ask what you...
Let's see, let's try this.
Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. You can see it's one of my best ones, and I can remember it right off the bat. But anyway, we have an opportunity to make things right for veterans when they come home, and that's the bottom line. They have done something that a lot of people won't do, can't do, would love to be able to do. And so we need to make sure that the benefits that they deserve should be given to them. I have one more recognition to give, and that is to IVROP students. Training opportunities for youth. We are very fortunate to have students here tonight from the IVROP program, Training Opportunities for Youth. We thank them for their participation as servers with the city's business recognition program. Imagine, that was held on March the 28th. This was the 4th year that IVROP program participated with the Imagine Business Recognition Program, and we are grateful for their assistance in making the event special. The city would like to present them with a monetary gift, and also thank you, and express our deep appreciation for helping with the Imagine Award program this year. With the IVROP folks, please come up and let's take a picture together. Thank you. But before as you're coming up, I'd just like to make this announcement to whoever is taking the picture. Please focus on me and let the rest kind of blend in.
Got 3 steps. Back it up.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Just going to look at my notes very quickly. Good evening, Mayor, distinguished council members, and members of the public. I wanted to thank you very much for the partnership. I want to thank Marcela Piedra, Deborah Harold, and her department for giving our students opportunities. I want to thank you for helping us make a difference in the lives of the youth of Imperial County, especially the El Centro students. I want to thank the youth and the staff for the great work that they did. I actually was on vacation that day, and I couldn't make it this year, but I heard that they did a great job. And 3 of you serve in the Workforce Development Board, so you're going to know, you already know, or you're going to find out the impact that budget cuts are going to have on the youth services. So we will need to strengthen our partnerships. We will need to seek, get more efficient, seek other funding sources to continue to provide the services that the youth of El Centro and the Imperial County require. I'm not afraid to say this, by far El Centro is the friendliest city from Imperial County to the youth program. You provide us fundraising opportunities, your departments are willing to train our students, and we work very closely with Parks and Recreation. We've used your facilities for forums, and I can go on and on. Lastly, I would like to commend you for the new bike route north of 8th of El Centro. That's relevant to our program because, which by the way, I use it very often to go to IVC in the morning, and I feel a lot safer. Through the California for Health initiative, we will be making some additional recommendations on how the city can make safer routes to school and policies to promote health and wellness. We are part of our state movement to have California become the healthiest state of the nation. I actually lost 30 pounds in the past couple of months, and then through ROP Wellness Program, we lost a combined 287 pounds in a 3-month period. Wow. So we're moving forward, and I want to thank you for everything that you've done for us. Any questions?
Oh, I guess.
I would just like to say, I think that every year the students do just a phenomenal job, and it adds so much, I think, to the event to have your food brought to your table and the dirty dishes removed, as opposed to, going through a buffet line. So they really add a lot to just the magic of the event. So appreciate very much them being there.
Thank you.
And I want to compliment Joab and ROP for the job that they continuously have done throughout the years in youth programs. And if you don't know my background, I used to work for ROP some years back, and I was a director for one of their youth programs. But I want to take you back to my own youth when I was your age. You see me now on the council, and I'm a dean at the community college, but no one would have ever imagined that I would have been where I am today. And it was because of programs such as Project Toy and other programs that I am where I am today. I will tell you that my very first leadership opportunity came in college through the Hispanic Leadership Opportunity Program. And at the time, it was nice, I enjoyed it, I thought that I had learned, but I didn't appreciate the impact that program had on me until later in life as I became an adult. And I was able to reflect back on the skills, what they taught us, what they talked to us about, making us see that, the old cliche, you can do anything you want, it's real. It's not just words. You can make anything happen if you dedicate yourself to achieving that. So what I see in you is, the faces that I saw when I was your age. I did not speak English. I learned that as an adult, and the opportunities that opened up for me. So I'm hoping that in the next 10 years, 15 years, that perhaps some of you guys will be here on this side of the table, and you will be the deans, and you will be the vice presidents of banks, and you will be business owners, and you will be models for future generations. So my congratulations to you, Joab, and to all the young people that are here, and nothing but the best for you, because I know that's possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations, Joab. You do an excellent job with the program, and like I said, 3 of us are on the workforce board, and so we work very closely with IVRP, and certainly the youth program is something that we're very proud of as far as a county, as far as funding and really looking at our youth as our future. And you know, I have a little different story. My youth background was in the scouting program, but it was a youth program nonetheless. And you know, a lot of these youth programs are where leaders are built, and I just commend you and your staff. I also commend our staff, Deborah and Marcella, because of our, you know, the willingness to reach out in partnership with you guys. I think that you know, it's one of the things that makes me the proudest of El Centro is that we are partnering with you guys, and we are taking a look at our youth and our future, and utilizing them where we can, and giving opportunities where we can, so to help your program. So good luck in the future, and continue the good work.
Thank you. Which, by the way, I forgot to say, we are taking 6 students to Washington this year.
Awesome.
Hopefully, they'll voice out, you know, the budget cuts to the youth programs, and you know, eventually somebody will listen, because, like you mentioned, they are the future of the nation. Thank you very much. Good evening. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. I just want to say, Mr. Silver said maybe 10 years he might be running. I plan to be around for a while, so make it 25.
Yeah, don't run against me.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir.
Good evening. Thank you.
We have 3 short presentations, and I would like to move the hospital presentation number 17 up to number 7.
So moved. We need a
No.
Oh, we're just
Make an
moving.
announcement. Okay. Items appearing under this section have submitted a written request to the city clerk a minimum of 1 week prior to the regular meeting. We have the monthly report by the El Centro Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Randy Taylor.
Thank you, and I will be brief. I see you have a busy agenda. Back in last month, we had a monthly mixer. This one was a co-op mixer in which new businesses were the host of this mixer, and it was a well-attended event at Ryerson Hall. In addition to that, we also had our President's Circle members that had booths. Just last weekend, I attended a ribbon cutting at Antojito's restaurant here in El Centro. They had an expansion there. They doubled their size. They expanded into the space right next to them. And in addition to that, Senator Ben Wetzel was also present for the ribbon cutting. And they had some delicious food there. The YPO Imperial Valley Young Professional Organization held their leadership banquet on May the 3rd. It was at the Barcelona here in El Centro. They honored 2 young leaders, one of them being here from El Centro, Eusebio Bayo, and the other was a young man who works in the Hopeville. So they're honoring young leaders throughout the Imperial Valley. And the Chamber recently has been meeting with a group of business leaders. What the group is attempting to do is bring SCORE here. SCORE is a desert racing event here in 2014, and we'll keep you up to date on our progress for that event. We'll be reaching out for you for support in attracting SCORE to this local area next year. And I had the privilege of attending Southern California Association of the Government Conference last week, and as well as many of you, and I was delightfully and proud to see Mrs. Walker as one of the leaders of this organization. Just seeing her up there, and hundreds, and I do mean hundreds, if not thousands of city leaders throughout the state were there, and to see a representative of El Centro in a leadership position made me extremely proud. I know that the city of El Centro and the state of California will benefit from her leadership. So I would like to say thank you, Cheryl. You have made us all extremely proud. And last but certainly not least, next Thursday, There will be a mixer, and it will be hosted by Rabobank, which is where I work. So I would like to invite all of you, as well as Mrs. Walker, all of you to be in attendance. I promise if you will be in attendance, I'll even buy you a drink. And of course, that will be a non-alcoholic beverage from Mr. Jackson.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And I have my Kiwanis pin on, if anyone didn't notice.
I noticed. I'm
Okay.
very, very happy. Your wallet must be getting too light to not wear that pin.
Well, I'm very proud to be a Kiwanian, and we have a great president. That concludes my presentation. Is there any questions that I could answer for the council? Okay, thank you very much.
We'll now have a report from Christine Moore regarding AT&T Communication Tower at 763 State Street in El Centro.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor Solomon and members of the El Centro City Council. My name is Christine Moore, and I'm the Director of External Affairs with AT&T. I'd like to take a moment to introduce my colleagues who are here with me tonight. We have Daryl Doherty and Ted Marancelli from PlanCom, who have been working with us on this project since the beginning. So it's been a few years since I've been here to talk about this project, so I've brought some information to share with you to refresh your memory and to bring those of you up to speed who were not here for the original discussion of this project. So with your permission, I'd like to approach the dais and hand out some one-pagers. Thank you. So I'm here tonight to offer a brief background on this project to refresh everyone's memory and to bring you up to speed on where we are now. The project is located at 763 State Street here in the downtown core. It's also the site of our central office. And this particular facility has been on the building since about 1962. It's a key component of the launch of our projected 4G LTE in the Valley, which is very exciting. I saw a lot of smartphones being used tonight in the audience. I won't call you out for those of you I saw who were texting and checking your emails, but we know that smartphones are the way of doing business, or the way of the future. We had some young people here earlier. You talked about them being the future of the Valley. We know that young people have embraced technology in unheard of numbers. We know that texting is the #1 form of communication for young people now. Smartphones are the way people are doing business. So I was delighted to see our next generation of business leaders and legislators sitting here, and I know that they will embrace this technology and that we'll be there to help them and provide the support that they need when they go to reach for that phone, that iPad, that laptop. A little bit about our product. In the last 6 years, wireless data on our network has grown more than 30,000%. Yes, that's a big number. 98%, put my glasses on here, of small businesses now use wireless technology in their operations, and 2/3 have indicated that they could not survive or they would have difficulty surviving without wireless technology. Twice as many businesses report using smartphones for their operations, and that's double the number from 5 years ago. A little bit about bringing it home. Here in El Centro, our wireless store at the Imperial Valley Mall is part of our region called the Paradise Network, or Paradise region. And Paradise is San Diego, Hawaii, Las Vegas, and Imperial County. We call that Paradise because it's paradise. Our store in El Centro last year in 2012 was the #1 store out of 21 stores in the Paradise region for sales and customer service. I am astounded at that number. In the 3 years since our store has been open, we have grown 30% year over year, and we have also consistently ranked in the top 3 in sales out of 21 stores in the Paradise region. So we know that residents of the Valley are clamoring for this technology, but they are engaged and ready to go, and we're ready to build our network along with them to meet that need. What does our tower serve? It serves all of the city of El Centro, in particular the downtown core, which includes federal, state, and local government facilities. It is the backbone of the County of Imperial Public Safety Network, and it also serves the outlying areas of the backcountry. The backhaul antennas provide landline service to outlying areas. It's important to remember this because what that means is that facility cannot be off air for more than 4 hours. Otherwise, we're at risk for PUC-imposed fines or penalties. It's a public safety network. It carries your 911 backhaul traffic for the county. The last time I checked, it carried about 40 911 calls a month on that tower. So it's very important to remember that this tower is not only a critical component of your economic development, it's also an important factor in your public safety network here in the Valley. Who has oversight on this facility? It is truly a multi-jurisdictional project. The FAA, the FCC, T-Mobile, CPUC, the county, DHS, and our local military base, just to name a few. So we are working with a lot of agencies to get this project done. The original reason for the project is we knew we had some challenges with service here, and we heard over and over again from residents and businesses that they wanted faster, better, more reliable service here in El Centro. We looked around and determined that this facility, which is the heart of the network in the Valley, was in need of the most improvement. Thus, about 5 years ago, we came to the city of El Centro and we approached you about upgrading the tower. We were told at the time that because of a recently passed project, Project SHAPE, that new infrastructure was not allowed in the downtown core. We worked with city staff over the course of the last few years to come up with an alternative design option, which is the clock tower that I gave you the handout. 5 years later, we have made significant progress. We are not there yet. It is, when I say multi-jurisdictional externally, within our own company, there are multiple work groups involved as well. So we continue to move forward on that. We have gotten some progress. We've installed T1 circuits. We've had a successful flash test from Superstition Mountain. We've completed our 1A engineering study. We've confirmed the relocation with T-Mobile. We've designed the electrical and utility portions of the project and confirmed sidewalk and facade improvements with city staff. We've received our FAA approval. We've secured our internal funding for the project. And we have connected this site with other projected site enhancements throughout Imperial Valley. So we have made progress. Where we are right now, you're probably wondering, the next step is working with our microwave folks to ensure that we have the right equipment to go forward with this project. We've already had to move it once because of the challenges associated with line of sight on our microwave towers. So I understand that you'd like us here tonight to tell you where we are. I'm proud to say that we have made progress. We continue to move forward, and we do expect, and I will have Daryl keep me honest here, that we'll be submitting a permit sometime in the next few weeks, we think. Okay. And again, I want to thank you for your cooperation, your support on this project. I will tell you that over the years that we have had the pleasure of working with Rosie, with Norma, with Ruben, and other city staff, and they have been among the most professional I've ever worked with, and they have always made themselves available for input, for responses, and we appreciate that. So thank you. I'm available for any questions along with my colleagues if there's anything else you'd like to ask.
I asked that this item be brought forward because I think it's inexcusable for the delays that have occurred in getting the site tower built. I think that what troubles me most, and AT&T has been a great partner, and you've been really good in terms of community support. But if downtown San Diego or any other jurisdiction had been working with AT&T to get this clock tower built, something that had been promised to us, we would not be sitting here 5 years later and no closer to having this constructed, in my mind. I mean, what this says is informational update on where we're at with this. So I want to know not just when a permit's going to be pulled. I want to know when we're going to see what AT&T has promised us is going to be built on State Street. I want a date. I want to know when it's going to be built. I think that that's what the community deserves. So if you or perhaps, and I apologize for being blunt, but we've been really, really patient. And the only reason this has come to council is because I asked for it to be moved forward. Because every time I went to staff for an update, it was another delay, another delay, another delay. So I want to put a little bit of heat on this, and I would like all of us here to hear from AT&T when we're going to see this. Give me a date, please.
So, Councilmember Walker, thank you for your interest in this project. I do appreciate your passion for the downtown core and for seeing this project through. As I stated, this is a multi-jurisdictional effort. Also, internally within our company, there are multiple work groups involved. It's microwave, it's mobility, and so it requires tremendous coordination. It's also not as if this were a cell site in an area that might have poor coverage or need a boost. This site is actually the backbone of the network in Imperial County. So we have one shot to get this right. And we want to ensure, not just because of the FCC oversight and the CPUC oversight, but because of our goal of servicing the residents of the county, we want to make sure that we get it right the first time. We can't afford for that site to be off air. We can't afford for the public safety network to be compromised. So it is important to us that we have checked every box, we have double checked every report that we've done. We're coordinating with another carrier who co-locates with us, T-Mobile, so there's some integration there as well that needs to happen. I understand you're looking for a date. We can commit to submitting a permit in the next few weeks. I cannot commit to a date when that will be built because we still need to obtain some internal equipment. We need to get FCC approval, which would take about 6 months, and then from there, we would be ready to give you a time certain. And I understand that's frustrating for you.
No, that's not frustrating, that's unacceptable. And I'm going to ask that the council look to bring this back on a monthly basis until AT&T is responsive to this community to get this built. I mean, we took years just agreeing with AT&T as to what that was going to look like, because I got the very real sense that AT&T did not want to live up to a commitment to come up with a construction that would complement our downtown core. I am extraordinarily disappointed with the responsiveness of AT&T to what they have promised the citizens of El Centro. And I would like to see this as a continuing item on our agenda until such time as AT&T steps up and fulfills its corporate responsibility.
Councilmember Walker, thank you, and if I may respond to that, we would have had this done some time ago if we had been able to work with the city on the proposed initial design. And we understand that there were considerations regarding the project that had just recently been passed prior to our application, Project SHAPE. At the time, we did understand that there were concerns about the impact on the downtown core, the aesthetics, and so forth. We made every effort to try to work with the city and say, is there some sort of offset, some sort of mitigation that we could do to mitigate the impact of the visual structure of the tower. The city was told, our city informed us at the time that because of this project, that was not the route they wanted to take. So we did go forward, we met with you, other council members, talked about the design you'd like to see. Based on those inputs that we received, we went back and designed a project that I think we could be proud of. I think you yourself said that you thought it was beautiful, that you looked like Palm Springs. We're very happy with this design. Now, getting that design and getting the equipment where it needs to be to make that design workable is the challenge we're dealing with here.
I seem to recall, as I would call the city to get updates, I think that you had a major setback in terms of the location of the tower that had to be either relocated.
Yes, we did have to relocate. Our proposed site initially was right alongside the building. After we were able to nail down that site and get T-Mobile to agree that their antenna would work in that new location, we went back to our microwave folks. Our microwave folks then did the testing that needs to be done to see, will this actually be a workable location? Unfortunately, it was not. We did come back and move it slightly and angle it, so now the microwave folks have signed off on that. They said it will work for them. T-Mobile has signed off on that, so we are now good to go. Now it's a matter of getting the appropriate equipment in there with our microwave folks to work. So we feel good about the location. We feel it's a strong site, and we don't anticipate any issues other than the equipment.
Could we ask city staff to put together a timeline as to approvals and provide that to the council? Thank you.
Mayor?
Thank you.
You know, I had some conversations with Ms. Moore regarding the this project, and I was part of the project when I was on the Planning Commission 5 years ago. And so I'm familiar with the process, but I too am a little frustrated as far as the timeline, because we have been working on this for more than 4 years. And the ability to go into a 4G network is obviously hampered by the fact that this tower can't be completed. I had a sidebar conversation with Ms. Moore regarding what could we do to expedite this project. And one would be, instead of having the clock tower, looking at other options as far as off-site mitigation, and I think that's one of the things you were talking about in your comments that you had proposed in the beginning of this project 4 years ago. I'd like to see some options brought back to the council from AT&T on if there's ways that we can cut the timeline down, what kind of off-site mitigations would be offered by AT&T, and to give this council an opportunity to review that. I agree with Ms. Walker. I think we should have a review next month, and hopefully maybe you could present some alternatives, and maybe there's some ways that we could work together to expedite this process and get the best benefit for the residents of El Centro.
Thank you,
Would that
Councilmember
bounce
Jackson.
it back to the Planning Commission? Would we have to go through that process all over again? All I see, Mr. Jackson, in that is adding to the delay. I want to see a timeline.
Actually, Councilmember Walker, I believe that would, Gerald, that would actually, if we were to go with our original design proposal with off-site mitigation, that would actually go much faster than trying to find new equipment for the tower as it's cited right now. So it would actually enhance the process.
But if we go back, it was rejected for a reason. This is what we agreed to. Is there any doubt that AT&T, in good faith, agreed that this is what El Centro was going to receive?
We did agree to that. We have made progress in that.
Then get it done.
And we have made progress in that. I listed the progressions that we've made thus far. I'm simply responding to Councilmember Jackson's comment and saying that if we were able to submit our original design with off-site mitigation, it would go much faster than the path we're on now.
I would just like to see those options on the table and for the council to review and you know, have an open conversation about it. And if there is whatever those off-site mitigations may be and whatever the value to the community would be, I'd just like to be able to weigh it out as well as the timeline. And I think it would be nice to have a, to the best of your ability, a timeline with the clock tower and a timeline with your original plan and what kind of off-site mitigation you could have.
And I have no interest in replowing the same ground with AT&T that was rejected. That original design, Mr. Jackson, was rejected by the Planning Commission. It was rejected by the council. This is what's been accepted. This is what's before us now. I don't see us going back and having a do-over with AT&T just because of their inability to bring forward and deliver what they've been promising us for 5 years now.
Well, I'm not looking at it as an inability for them to either perform or not perform. I'm looking at it from a quality of life perspective from our citizens. If we can expedite a project and we can get an off-site mitigation program that is beneficial to the community and get a 4G network, I have no dog in this fight. I don't have AT&T service, sorry. But I have a lot of business partners that do, and certainly that's something that is desirable in this community. So I'm just looking at the entire picture, and if the picture is brighter to go back and we can expedite timeline, that's something certainly I would consider.
How about expediting the timeline by holding AT&T accountable for what they've promised to bring in and deliver, which will be aesthetically very pleasing for downtown. I don't think we reward bad behavior by giving them a do-over. I just don't think that's the way of good governance.
I do want to follow up on a question asked earlier, Chris. I don't know if Chris or Norma, but if the council entertained revising its conditions and basically reevaluating options, would that trigger a new set of hearings?
Yes, it will, because in essence, you're going to be amending the CUP. So it would have to go back to Planning Commission and in a public hearing.
Even if the review includes items that were previously considered by the Planning Commission, it would
yes,
trigger?
Yes, because they were not approved by the Planning Commission.
Okay. So in absence of that, we would have to follow up with the original concept or go through another set of hearings.
Yes.
Okay. A question, and I don't know, Ms. Moore might be able to answer this better, is, Ms. Moore?
I'm sorry.
I guess a question for you, Nora, first. what's the timeline if we were to go that route? You know, if we were to go back for a plan to Planning Commission and come back to the council, we looking at 2 months or
Between 4 to 6 months.
4 and 6?
And who pays for the expense of replowing that ground?
The applicant would be responsible for the fees, public hearing fees and so forth.
I'm sorry, just a clarification. Our original proposal did not go to Planning Commission. The clock tower went to Planning Commission and was approved. The original proposal never made it to Planning Commission. That was just from discussions with city staff when they informed us right away that because of Project Shape, that was not a fit for downtown at that time.
And your timeline for FCC approval, you said was 6 months?
FCC approval takes about 6 months. From there, we estimate another 3 to 6 months with the city. But before we do any of that, we need to resolve the issues with the microwave equipment, which have been challenging because the most recent equipment we used has been discontinued. So we are now in the process of obtaining new equipment. So unfortunately, that's why I can't give you a timeline, because we don't quite know when those approvals will be given internally.
So it sounds like best case scenario, if we stay with the same design or the current design, we're 9 months to 12 months at best case.
At best. Would you agree?
Okay, can we get a commitment then? We're 9 to 12 months out of this design.
I cannot give you a commitment again because we don't have the,
Isn't that what I just heard? 9 to 12 months.
our best guess.
Perfect. Best guess. Can we get that in the minutes? Best guess from AT&T, 9 to 12 months. That's all I was asking for, was an update.
Any other questions or comments? No? Thank you again
Thank you, Christine.
for your comments and consideration tonight.
Thank you.
On behalf of the mayor, I'm gonna, typically we have public comments at the end of the meeting, towards the end of the meeting, but that sometimes it looks like today is gonna take quite a bit of time. So in fairness to the new representative for Senator Hueso, we have a request to speak to the council from Joanna Caballero, who is going to provide some remarks. So they wanna keep you there waiting all night, Joanna, so.
Thank you, Councilmember Silva. Good evening. My name is Joanna Caballero, and I'm the new district representative for Senator Ben Hueso, who was a newly appointed state senator for this area. And I just wanted to introduce myself and make myself available to you all. And I just also wanted to let you guys know that our offices are located on State Street, 1224 State Street, Suite D. You're more than welcome to walk into our office or give us a phone call. And if I may approach, I will hand you each a business card if that's okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Sanders?
If I get Ms. Connor, come up, she then make sure you're up to date where we're at with the committee, and then on to Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. The City Council Chambers ADA renovation is moving forward. The preliminary design is complete. The task force met a couple weeks ago and made some final changes to the design. The design is complete today, and we expect the construction documents to be submitted to the city on June 15th and going to City Council for approval on September 3rd, going out to bid on October 11th, and construction to begin December 5th. And I'd like to introduce Jimmy Sanders of Sanders Inc., who's the engineer and the construction manager for this project.
Thank you for the opportunity to present our design for your new council chambers. We want to thank the task force that we were able to meet with over the past few months to complete the design. They were very helpful, provided a lot of good information each time, and so it's been a pleasure to work with the city to get to this point in the design. So we have two slides to present to you tonight. This first one is the floor plan showing the different features of the new chamber. So I'd like to start here on the north wall or the raised dais on our floor plan, which is this area here. We want to point out that the dais will be raised 14 inches, that the current sloped floor will be infilled and be leveled with the finished floor. So when you walk in this back door here, or the main entrance door, you will walk onto a flush floor, and all of the seats out in the public area will all be at the same elevation as the entrance. It's going to be the dais that's raised 14 inches. We want to point out that there's a total of 11 seats on the dais, so that's going to support a council meeting, but also some of the other public entities that will also use the facility. There's a media area and a clerk area at each end of the dais. To access the dais, there's a ramp here on the west side, and there's also one on the east side. This one on the east side, in order to access this one, you have to go through a privacy door here, whereas this one here would be used by the public. We want to point out that there's a total of 55 seats in the new chambers. Currently, there's 98 seats, so we are losing some seats, but this is a result of the task force committee meetings. And what we were tasked to do was to design a facility that would house a typical council meeting, knowing that we would, with the floor plan that we have to work with, we would never be able to house the maximum number of people that want to attend a council meeting. So on average, there's 20, 30 people in a meeting, and so this would support a typical council meeting. We talked about how we're going to accommodate those meetings where we do have, say, 100 people, 150, 200 people, where there's a hot issue that's going to be discussed, and we would have speakers on the outside of the building so that people could participate outside, possibly even with a video feed and speakers, so that the meeting would be projected live to the outside courtyard area. All of these seats are well, they're larger than your existing seats, and the aisles are also a little more generous. And there's a center aisle here and ample side aisles. And so that's been designed so that people can enter and exit the meeting as they're on the agenda. So in addition to having these aisles, because these aisles are more generous, you'll be able to come in and sit down when your agenda item is up and exit without having to excuse yourself past everybody already sitting in the aisles or in the seats. I want to point out there's a new exit door, which is required by code, but that would strictly be an exit door. It wouldn't have any glass in it and would be painted to match the outside of the building and the inside of the building, so that that would be right here. Yeah. Right. Yep. and then this would remain as your main entrance door here. There's a small agenda table for handouts and agenda sheets right when you walk in. As far as the presentation goes for the new chambers, this is the presentation podium here. We have two screens here, which would be behind the council members for viewing by the public. So that would be on these walls here and there. The council members would have individual notepads at each one of their stations, and then in addition to that, there would be a very large screen on this back wall here that the council could also view. Okay, this next slide shows the north elevation, which would be this wall here. Okay. So here's the two large screens that I referred to. This is the raised dais here. There's your clerk area and your media area. This is the ramp on the left side or the west side. And then this section here shows a line of sight. So we thought it was important that the persons in the audience were able to see the TVs, these large TVs, without being blocked by the council members. And so you can see this is a worst case scenario. The person sitting all the way in the very front still has good access to the TV. And then, of course, the person presenting at the presentation podium also has a good line of sight. Any questions?
Jimmy, under that design there, the city manager and city attorney will be sitting.
Yeah, in a council meeting, that's what we have a total of 11 seats here. So it would support the council members plus an additional 6 seats, up to 6 seats. So we discussed this in the committee meeting that the council members would sit in the center, and then your support would sit to your sides.
One of the things that we really liked about this design is that the center aisle will allow greater access to the
This
seats
aisle
in
here.
the middle, as well as the distance between the seats.
Right.
So you're not going to be scrunching up every time somebody walks in front of you.
Right now, everyone wants to sit on the aisles just because of easy access, because they know they're going to either come in late or leave early, right? No one wants to sit in the middle. And with this design and layout of the seats, you'll encourage people to be able to come late or to come when their agenda item is up, and then leave when it's finished without interrupting the meeting and have to excuse themselves past people.
And Mr. Sanders, could you point out some of the ADA improvements?
Yes. There's a total of 53 seats here. There's a designated ADA seat here. There's one here, and then we can also fit one here. And then up on the dais itself, of course, you access the dais via ramps, but there's also, we show here one ADA council member seat, and there's ample room behind the chairs so that you can get a wheelchair in and out easily.
The restroom facility will still have to be accessed to the outside?
Yes,
Like you have it now?
that's correct. Yeah, there will be some work, but the restroom facility, there will be minimal work in that facility.
And Mr. Sanders, Ms. Connor gave us the timeline. Looks like with an award of bid November 5th, construction begins December 5th, and the construction time frame?
3 to 4 months.
I'm not able to read that from here, Jimmy, but just north of seats 1, there's a door, and then there's something written behind that. Yes, what is that?
That's a small supply room.
Oh, supply. Okay.
Behind a locked door for supplies. And then this room here, this will be our data room to support all of the technology in the new facility.
I just want to say I had the pleasure of serving with Ms. Walker on this task force, and I think we've come up with a great design, and very happy that Sanders Incorporated is been working on this project, and a local company, I'll add, and I think that the finished product is exceptional, and certainly look forward to getting all this stuff ripped out and getting seated back in here sometime next year. So it's been a pleasure working with you, and we certainly look forward to the end result.
I look forward to making a presentation from that new presentation podium.
Maybe the first one.
Yeah, awesome, awesome.
All right, thank you.
Before the council leaves this item, there is actually a part B to this project. Is during construction will be located at the OPOP for that, and Mr. Sanders has been very helpful, particularly dealing with the lighting, because that's still going to be a stage and other uses, so it's not just a matter of slapping in some lights. We need to make them work so there's balcony, line of sight, etc. And the IVRP is assisting us with the dais construction. So it's we've got a lot of help with this. We're also dealing with some ADA issues that were left over that we were not able to get to in the big remodel with the RDA funds, and we're going to be able to fix those items so that when we leave there, in a few months after we get there, that building will be much more usable to the public. And there's small items, but also some painting. Well, it seems like we just rehabbed it recently. It's been about 7 years now, 8 years. So it needed a little bit of work, and I appreciate Mr. Sanders helping us with that lighting.
What about the videotaping equipment that was currently used by Spectrum for this? Where would that be housed?
This area here is designed to have a person that is seated at seated in the meeting to control all of the required AV equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And the new facility, the proposed new facility, would have all the state-of-the-art AV equipment.
It would be built in.
So the camera will be built in?
Oh, absolutely. Right. Yeah, you won't see any. Well, you'll see a small camera in the ceiling and perhaps in a wall, but you won't all the setup and takedown that you currently have to do in a council meeting. You just going to need to show up with your laptop and plug it in over here in this area, and you'll be off and going.
Okay, I would like to echo Mr. Jackson's comments that both Ms. Connor and Mr. Sanders have been extraordinarily wonderful to work with, and we look forward to the project coming to completion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time we are going to move forward and advance agenda item number 17 on our agenda. This is discussion and any necessary action regarding professional services contract with Hanlon Camp LLC for ECRMC affiliation evaluation process. In introducing this item, I would ask that the members of the hospital board of trustees that are present, if you could please stand, and if we could ask the president of the board of trustees to please identify the fellow trustees that are here. Please stand. Mr. Calderon, if you could please introduce your fellow members, please.
Yes, good evening. We have here Dr. Humphrey, Mr. Picasso, Mr. Roach, Mr. Alvarado.
Outstanding. Thank you very much for being here. And Mr. David Green, hospital CEO, if you could. Oh, I'm sorry.
One more, sorry. We have our chief of staff, Dr. Mokau.
Yes. Thank you. And Mr. Green, if you could stand to be recognized, and I do believe some members of your staff are here.
Yes, we do have our chief financial officer, Alex Wells, and Kathy Pipkin, our marketing director, and Kathy Kennison, our director of development. And over here, we also have our chief information officer, Tura Morris, and two of her staff.
Okay, and in the very back.
There's Dana, who's also the director of surge and ICU and along the nursing department.
Awesome.
And these are
Facilities Management, excellent.
And we also have one of our radiologists.
Very good. Well, welcome all of you. We're really glad that you're here to hear this item this evening. At this time, we'll turn the presentation over to our city manager, Mr. Duran.
Yes, thank you. Oops, I know. Place here. My apologies. Electronically flipping over my pages here, and it moved on me. There we go. All right. This item is, I prepared this for the subcommittee of the council, which is Ms. Walker and Mr. Jackson. And as indicated here, there was a process that occurred to obtain a company, professional services, for the purposes of evaluating an affiliation process, a process of looking at affiliations of the hospital with other medical organizations, specifically the hospitals. And that's where we're at today. That process started several weeks ago with the establishment of a subcommittee, and also the Board of Trustees establishing a subcommittee, and they joined together to solicit and to evaluate a number of proposals. And those are indicated, those proposals in the report. There were 3 of them, and through a vetting process and also references and actual interviews, a recommendation was made for the H2C, which is Hammond, Hanlon, and Camp, LLC. The financing structure in there is indicated. The funds are coming from the El Centro Regional Medical Center, and they'll be processed through the city attorney's office as part of this transaction to the ECMRC. I'd like to do is ask for any comments from the subcommittee who worked on this, and I was privileged to be able to write this report, but I thank you for your input on this.
I think serving on this subcommittee is certainly a huge responsibility for staff and for everybody that's serving on it. We didn't take this position lightly. I think that we looked at all the possibilities. We looked at the future of healthcare. We looked at quality service to our residents, advancement that possible affiliations could bring. So I think our main goal is to improve our services to our community members and to look for the best situation to move our hospital forward and provide the best medical services to our community. So I think we've taken a first step with that in bringing on the consultants, and hopefully we'll be able to come to some kind of conclusion that will be beneficial to the entire community.
And I also had the pleasure of serving on the task force, and I have got to say I have never been so excited about an initiative. We are dealing right now with a lot of issues in healthcare, and we know that we are the only city-owned hospital left in the state of California. So then you start to wonder, if that's such a great business model, why isn't everybody doing it? So the time is now. The time is right. The hospital is doing well financially, and probably most exciting about the whole initiative is the fact that there are willing partners out there that are just as excited about affiliating with us as we are with affiliating with them. And I know that we have representatives here from H2C, and I would ask that they come up, because we did go through a very extensive vetting process, a very extensive due diligence process in picking a partner to recommend to the full council. I appreciate the hospital board of trustees and their vote of confidence that this is the partner that we should collectively move forward with. Appreciate the input from the members of the board of trustees that served with Mr. Jackson and myself on this task force. So without further ado, if you could please touch on your company and the highlights in your background and why you share our goal and our vision, and why you believe as well that this is an exciting opportunity.
Okay, well, our firm was sort of goes back many years in its heritage as a financial advisory firm focused on working with primarily nonprofit healthcare organizations, but healthcare services companies. I've been in this business for about a little over 30 years now. It's a long time. Working in the same venue. I've been in California, I've been in the Southeast, and now back in California. So I have some perspective from a national practice. We have offices around the country, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, and where I work in Tom as well in San Diego. One of the exciting things about this is a proactive nature that the City Council has taken to this project. So often we see that hospitals need to get into trouble financially before they take a step to look at what their options are. And so we're very excited as well to have the opportunity to work with an organization that's working well in its community and looking to enhance and strengthen the organization that it has. We think also being in San Diego that you have a number of tremendous opportunities out there, very vibrant healthcare community in San Diego, and already you have relationships. I think strengthening any one of them would do a service to both organizations. And again, we're excited to be a part of the process, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And for the record, for the clerk's benefit, if you could identify yourself by name and address would be helpful.
Sure. My name is Bill Hanlon. I'm a principal at Hammond Hanlon Camp. We are at 11682 El Camino Real, Suite 320 in San Diego, California, 92130. And I'm accompanied by my partner here, Tom Blankenship.
Thank you. Tom, did you want to say anything?
No, I think Bill handled everything.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you both very much. I think that it's important for us to recognize, and it says it right here and captures it right here in the staff support or staff report, and that is the whole goal of this partnership with you is to fulfill the city's and ECRMC's mission to provide healthcare excellence for the Imperial Valley, and ECRMC's vision to be recognized as a premier center of healthcare excellence. That's what we need to go out, partner with you to achieve.
Terrific.
All right.
It's a worthy goal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do ask that the city attorney, when she has a moment, one of the issues that has been raised is a legal issue, and that has to do with whether or not we have the authority, jointly with the Hospital Board of Trustees as a city council, to move forward with this process. And I would ask that you maybe comment, Ms. Becker, from a legal standpoint as to our way forward.
Yes, it's my understanding that there has been some confusion as to whether or not a citywide election is required in order to take this direction. And we actually engaged specialty counsel to do prepare a legal opinion addressing that issue. Now, what we learned is that the citywide election question only arises should there be a transfer of assets to a nonprofit corporation or straight sale. Because if there is a long-term lease or an affiliation, the city would maintain ownership of the hospital. So when you're talking about transferring assets to a nonprofit, a hospital district law requires, among other things, it's been modified throughout the years. The district law has been modified throughout the years, and it places significant restrictions on similar transactions for districts. For example, local healthcare district law requires appraisals, public meeting, and voter approval before an entire hospital can be transferred. In fact, I pulled up the code section for you, and I highlighted, and I can pass this out if you'd like to look at it, but I highlighted the sections of the district code that places these restrictions that we were just talking about. Hold on, wait 1 second. In contrast, municipal law, it just isn't there. So that's the reason why we're different from districts, because the municipal law does not contain comparable restrictions. So that's with respect to transferring assets to a nonprofit company. Now, for a sale of assets, if we actually went forward with a straight sale, Government Code sections 37602 and 37652 confirm that an election has to happen in order to establish a municipal hospital. But our experts found no statutory obligation to seek voter approval to exit the municipal hospital business entirely. And in addition, they do not believe prior voter approval of the establishment of they do not believe that there needs to be voter approval from exiting the enterprise without an election. They do say that the matter is free from doubt. There is a potential preemption argument, but they've provided us an analysis to confirm that they don't believe the preemption analysis would be a righteous one. Their reservations stem from the potential implication that in the municipal law, there is no provision for a sale. The only thing that municipal law contemplates is lease or transfer of the hospital. And so the preemption issue would be, well, if the state says clearly in the municipal law you can only lease or transfer, then you can't sell. But they say that that's not a valid argument for a couple of different reasons. First, it has to do with approving our city charter. And that by approving our city charter, it increases our authority to adopt local laws that are not going to be preempted by state laws. Specifically, the charter states, the city shall have all the powers that a city can have under the Constitution and laws of the state of California as fully and completely as though they were specifically enumerated in this charter. So since the municipal hospital laws don't address a sale, since municipal hospital laws do not address termination of the enterprise, if the city determined that we wanted to sell the hospital, there would be no direct conflict with general law. So there's also the history of the district law versus the municipal law. They said because there have been only a handful of municipal hospitals in the history of California, the municipal law just hasn't been changed. Unlike the districts, which have been really strictly regulated over the years. And since 1982, the legislature has just not restricted the authority granted to municipal hospitals in the same fashion that they did to district hospitals. And also he says that municipal hospitals are not subject to any provisions subject to Government Code Section 57103, which generally requires an election for the dissolution of a healthcare district. So it's their conclusion that based on this history, the state hasn't made the disposition of a municipal hospital an overriding state authority priority, and so it's their conclusion that the state has left it to the city to decide how to whether maintaining this municipal hospital is in the best interest of our community.
And to be clear, one of the tasks presented to H2C is to determine the most appropriate form of collaboration between El Centro Regional Medical Center and a potential partner, whether that be lease, sale, affiliation, or some other combination. So that's also part of the analysis that's going into this. At this point in time, I want to pause. If there is anyone in the public that wants to address this item, there are speaker slips in the back. We would ask that you fill those out and then come forward if this is an item you would like to address. I'd like to get comments from council members if there's any questions.
Yeah, I have one.
Yes.
Whatever form that we wind up using, I would like to make sure that the employees, there's between 800 and 1,000 employees are taken care of one way or another.
I have a related question to the consultants. If you can approach the microphone for me, please.
And maybe perhaps you could address, either yourself or Ms. Becker could address in general, as we move forward into a definitive agreement with a partner, there are certain things that we can include within the context of that agreement. Maybe either you or Ms. Becker could comment on
with
how
respect
we fashion that at the end of the rainbow.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm on the hospital board, and I've sat on the hospital board now for 2 years, I think. And this is a difficult discussion. I think there's different opinions in the community as to whether this might be the right thing to do or not. I'm convinced, as well as the council and as well as the hospital board is convinced that this is the right thing to do. It's the right time to do it as well. There's fears from people, obviously. If you work for the hospital, there may be a sense of what's going to happen to me and my benefits and so on and so forth. And as we began to think about this and talk about this, first of all, I thought doing what we're about to do should be a monumental task. And it is, but it's not that uncommon. I found out hospital transfers happened a lot more than I would have imagined. So from your experience and doing this, what have you seen in terms of best case scenarios, worst case scenarios, specifically related to employees working for a hospital? Is there a transition phase normally, historically, or do people come in and clean house and start fresh and ask, what's your experience in terms of those dynamics?
Normally, the hospital employees are retained, and particularly in this case where there's no financial distress. And in fact, what we normally see is that a number of employees would have been let go in the face of financial distress, and then we would have been asked to find a suitor because we really can't make it. But in this case, you have a viable, thriving organization, and so the employees would be compared. If it were depends on how close the affiliation is. If it's a very close affiliation, then your counterpart would look at what their benefit structure is, what their employee wage tenure issues are, and compare them to yours. Oftentimes we see the larger systems they pay more, they have better benefits, but that's not always true, and you'd have to do a comparison. There are transaction structures that require the termination and rehiring of all employees, a WARN Act notice, and the whole program, which can be very unsettling. But the end result is intended to be the same, just following the rules and regulations, that we end up with the same employee base. There's no real advantage to a big change in the employee base. It's disruptive to the operation of the organization, and so there's no real incentive to do that, particularly, as I say, as you're in financially good shape. So we don't really see that as being a big issue. I think comparing benefits can be the most sort of complicated part of this, and most often we see at least a one-year runway to transition to whatever the new benefit structure is, and a lot of times to make sure that if there is attrition, it's done by unfilled positions and that nature.
And what can you comment on Ms. Walker's comment that the fact this we're the last city-owned hospital in the state, which tells me a lot, and that no one else is wanting to do this, and our focus on improving healthcare in our community. So, from your perspective, and looking at all the other options and not knowing exactly where we're going, but do you agree that ultimately this is an opportunity to improve healthcare in our community?
Well, I think absolutely it's an opportunity to improve the quality of the service that you provide, because you can bring resources from other communities to bear here that will have a vested interest in seeing them fully deployed. I think what we're seeing around the country, in fact, is that there's a definite trend towards becoming part of larger regional or super-regional organizations to get access to the kinds of resources you need to be successful as the Patient Protection and Accountable Care Act is deployed in the nation at large. I think as you bring a lot of people into the Medicaid program that previously weren't, you're going to have challenges with just straight capacity that's going to require new ways of thinking. We see a change from volume-based services where you're paid for what you do to value-based services where you're paid for outcomes and you may not be paid the same, as being an increasingly large challenge for healthcare organizations everywhere. And the thought of how do we get from where we are now to where we need to be, and how do we fund the transition costs, is a really big issue. So I think, again, I think it's a tremendous sort of congratulations for being proactive about this process before you're confronted with challenges that are maybe overwhelming in the event that you ever were confronted with them, and seeing the opportunity to really build the healthcare community in this, to build the healthcare organization in this community to a level of strength that bringing outside resources may enhance.
And I think I'm going to need to memorize that response as I'm out in the community.
Yeah. Well, it's recorded now, so we'll just have somebody transcribe it. So, Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, I just want to make some comments. I see a lot of hospital employees in the audience, and certainly there's a sense of uneasiness. And And I want to say that the task force that was put together of exceptional community members that care about our community and about our employees. And there was a lot of conversation about that we do not want to be a transfer hospital. We're not looking for an affiliation with San Diego to just throw a Band-Aid on somebody and air flight them to San Diego for treatment. We will make sure that whatever affiliation that we enter into, we maintain a fully operational hospital here in Imperial Valley and El Centro with the maximizing of capital improvements to our hospital by whatever affiliation that we take, and that our employees are certainly taken care of. So I certainly want our community to know that this wasn't a decision taken lightly, but it was taken by a lot of very good community people that have the best interests of our citizens and our employees when we made this decision.
Thank you. We do have a speaker slip. Dr. Mukai.
Mr. Mayor, the council, and the public. My name is Leslie Mukau. Think of a cow and moo, Mukau. I've just been recently elected as Chief of Staff, and I'm here representing the medical staff. However, I would like to congratulate you. I think, the task force did a tremendous job, not only in thinking outside the box, and I think given the changes that are going on in healthcare now, this probably is the right way to go. Why? I think already, as some of you have mentioned, in terms of getting the capital that we need to improve, and also getting the resources in terms of improving the quality of care we deliver in the hospital, I think it's almost imperative that we enter into a partnership with some organization or with someone. So I just want to be on record that, as a representative of the medical staff, this is a great thing, to do. And also at this point, I would like to point out that, I've been working with the Board of Trustees and the administration, and I just want to say that we have a vote of confidence for both the Board of Trustees and the administration for the wonderful work that they are doing. And we are fully supportive of what the City Council is trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak to this item? Do we have any additional questions or comments from council? Okay, we'll bring it back. This is an action item. Is there someone that would like to?
Ms. Walker, I make a motion. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
I make a motion for approval of Resolution 1325, resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro approving a professional services agreement with Hanlon Camp LLC for the ECRMC affiliation evaluation process.
Second.
I have a motion by Silva, second by Jackson. Please ballot.
Motion carried.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much. I think at this time we're going to call a 5-minute recess, and we will reconvene in 5 minutes. Thank you.
You want to find out with Cheryl? Or?
That's